You are listening to WVEB Truth Sharks Radio.
How are you doing today, my people? This is your friend, the Sand Tiger, DJ Southeast Vince, coming at you all the way from a place called Durham, North Carolina. And this is the True Sharks Radio presentation of Black by Color Only, where I speak truth to the Black nation, whatever that may be. Anyway, if you would like to join the show, there should be a link for you to come on to the show to be a part of it and whatever. But I will ask that you excuse me, trying to get my words together. I would ask that you when you come on this show, you do it respectfully, and don't come on here with your ad hominems and your character assassinations and gaslighting and things like that. I don't care if you agree with me or disagree with me. I don't care about either one. All I care about is the respect. We are adults here. And also, those of you all like to come on here and like to use your filthy language to disrupt the show, you will have a very quick exit from this show. Okay. All I ask is that you uh, show respect to this host and don't come in here being stupid. In other words, don't be a fruit bat. But anyway, folks, there was a story. There was a story that came up earlier this week, I think a few days ago. And it was a story about a principal, a school principal. If I can pull it up right quick. For some reason, I can't get it up. I don't know why I won't pull up. But anyway, this was a story about a school principal in Dallas, Texas. The place I wanted to pull it up at is not pulling up for some reason. I don't know why, but let me see if I can do it here. Give me a second. Let's see what this does. Okay, all right. I got it up. Okay, this this article is dated October 29th, 2025, so this is just a few days ago. Um, and we you all know what I talk about here on this show about, the problems in the black communities and whatever, and why black people always blaming white people when they need to be blaming themselves for their little shortcomings, but they like to ignore that, and they're always pointing the finger of blame at somebody else instead of taking responsibility for their own actions. And this story out of Dallas involves a principal who was removed from her job as principal because she called in a bunch of black students. Well, her school got a B grade, and they probably could have easily gotten an A grade, but she blamed the black students for why the school got a B grade. So let me go ahead and read this. It says Dallas Independent School District ISD has appointed an interim principal at Woodrow Wilson High School after the current principal reportedly singled out black students, allegedly holding them responsible for the school's B rating. The interim principal was appointed after parents and students raised concerns over an October 24th meeting in which Principal Chandra Hooper Barnett reportedly met only with black students and allegedly blamed them for the school's state accountability rating, NBC DFW reports. By October 27, families received a letter announcing the appointment of the interim principal. It happened very quickly, which is great, said Jennifer Bush, whose son was one of more than 100 black students called into the auditorium on October 24th by Hooper Barnett. Principal Barnett had told them they were the reason the school had a B rating, I guess with the TEA. I guess that's the Texas Education Association. I guess that's what TEA is, Bush said. And she said it in a derogatory manner. Bush said her son told her the meeting shifted to a discussion about forming a black social club, leaving her and other parents puzzled. She added that she was particularly surprised by Hooper Barnett's actions, given that the principal is also a black woman. Wait a minute. I was shocked because I know that Principal Barnett is a black woman. So I was really shocked she would say something like that, Bush said. After the meeting, the district named Danielle Peters, formerly executive director of the Woodrow Wilson Vertical Team and principal at J.L. Long Middle School, as interim principal. In a letter to families, executive director Aaron Aguirre Castillo stated the district is taking the necessary steps to address this matter thoughtfully and thoroughly, and reassured parents that ensuring a safe, respectful, and supportive environment for all students remains unwavering. Hooper Barnett also issued a letter to students and families apologizing for the meeting and accepting full responsibility for her actions. The decision to hold that meeting and the subsequent discussion that transpired was not appropriate, she wrote. I take full ownership and responsibility for what occurred, and I want to assure you that it was never my intent to single out or cause harm to any of the students. The district has not indicated whether Hooper Barnett will face disciplinary action or if she might return to her position. Okay, folks, so what we have here is a principal of a school, black woman, and she calls in a bunch of the black kids and tells them, you're the reason why, our school is not living up to its standards. You all need to get your grades up and whatever, and you need to do this, And the thing, the problem I always hear about, the problem that I see about stories like this is, it's a certain demographic or a certain race of people that you do not say anything negative to them. You're not allowed to be negative about them. So this lady, who was a black principal, by the way, in the story you read where a parent said she was surprised because this was a black principal. Because only the white people do this. Only the white people tear us down. But if you're a black person and you're tearing us down, you're a coon and and everything like that. But anyway, this woman was a black woman, and let me tell you all something. This is my take on the whole thing. I believe that she was calling these black kids to step up their game, because I'm pretty sure as a principal of that school, she knows who's excelling and who is not excelling in that school. Or at least I will hope that's the case. But apparently, you don't, whether you are black or white or whatever, you don't say anything negative about black folks. And the main problem with this, and I said this several times before, the main problem with our kids in school are their parents. Now they were like, why are you gonna call out our kids? Why don't you call on some of the? They probably were like, why? I don't see you talking about the white kids, and because probably the white kids were getting their act together, or the Hispanic kids, or whoever else was in there. And this was based, I believe this was a case of a person who is black trying to plead with other black people to step up their game, which is nothing wrong with that. I've been accused on this show of always talking about black folks. You're always talking about black folks. You're always talking about black folks. Well, I'm trying to get black folks to step up their game. So I'm just supposed to ignore what negativity or what shortcomings that occur in the race just so you can feel good. And see, that's all this is a feel good thing. A lot of these parents, they don't want to feel bad about their kids. So instead of when their kids come home and they laying down the law and saying, "Hey, Johnny, I saw your report card. Johnny, I got a call from your teacher. This house, you're going to be on punishment or whatever until you step up your grades." But do they do that? A lot of these parents don't do it. You know why? Because a lot of these parents haven't grown up themselves. A lot of these parents had that mindset of, you know what, I'll just sit around and just let things come to me passively. But these parents, they don't want to hear anything about, their little Sharquishas or their Quintavions. And how dare this woman, who is a black person, how dare her call our fellow black people in and denigrate them like this? And I saw this story. I said, now, this is crazy. This is crazy. So as a black person, you cannot tell your fellow black people they need to step up their game, stop the blaming, stop blaming the white man, and stop talking about privilege and everything. You need to pull your boots up you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Take some responsibility, study for your classes, pass your tests, turn in your homework on time. No, you can't do that. And I guarantee you, in most schools across this country, the problem group of people in those schools are the black students. And I know a lot of you all will probably come against me. Excuse me. You all will probably come against me. Oh, why you got to be talking about the black kids? What about the white kids? Well, there are some misbehaving white kids. I guarantee you there are. But they pale in comparison to how many black kids are misbehaving. It's almost like most of the black kids misbehave in schools. And I'm not about to give them a pass myself. I've dealt with parents, you will have a problem child in your classroom and he'll misbehave, do things that he's not supposed to do and whatever. And then when you start getting on him, people accuse you of picking on their child. What do you mean I'm picking on your child? Your child is bad. Your child is misbehaving. Every time I want to teach my class, your child wants to come in and disrupt this class, and I had to send him or her to the principal's office quite often because they are disrupting this class. They're bullying the other kids, making fun of the other kids, picking fights with the other kids, but yet and still you want to get on me saying that I'm picking on your child. I remember this. I was working with a boys group in the church I used to go to. And there was this one kid, he would just do stuff like, why are you doing this? Why, he was just bad. And his mom wanted to get on me because she felt like we were picking on her child. No one's picking on your child. And the other guy that I worked with in this boys group, he said, look, these parents know how their children are acting. They know their children are bad. He said, if someone came to me and told me that my child was misbehaving, he'll be like, yep, that's how he acts at home. He said he's not going to take up for his child. But a lot of these kids, the reason why we have so much turmoil and delinquency in the black race is not because of white people. It's because you got parents who haven't matured mentally. They're always caping for their kids. And their kids are bad as all get up, but they don't do anything about how bad their kids are. And then when somebody finally puts their foot down and says, no further, then they want to say, well, why are you picking on my child? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And don't let it be in a church school, because when you start saying these kids are bad, they'll say, don't speak that. Don't say that. Don't say that about these kids. They're great kids. No, they're bad kids. And until you realize that problem is going to continue to perpetuate until somebody steps down, until these school administrators stand up and they say, look, I don't care if your child is black, white, Hispanic, whatever. You parents, you all need to help us out here with your children. This is not a babysitting service. Your children go home. When they go home, they don't go home with us. They go home with you. And it is your duty as a parent to make the atmosphere at home conducive for their studies. I remember several years ago, there was this lady in Baltimore. She was mad at the school at the school administration because her child was in the 12th grade and she was looking forward to him graduating within, I think it was 3 or 4 months, and found out that they were going to put his child all the way back to the 9th grade because he had so many credits that he had not acquired in the 4 years that he had been in school. And I remember they were showing it on TV, and they were showing her talking to her child. Of course, they didn't show his face because, you know, he's a juvenile. I would get rid of that rule too. But she's sitting there talking to her child like, "Yeah, honey, we're gonna get over this. We're gonna get over this and everything." And he's sitting there playing with a video game instead of her unhooking the video game and saying, "Hey, this is the reason why they want to put you back in the 9th grade." But she gets mad at the school for her child not being ready to graduate. And I'm sitting there like, you know, they have these things called report cards. They have these things called parent teachers meetings. Have you taken your responsibility as a parent to see how your child is performing in school? Apparently she wasn't. And she wants to blame the school for why her child was flunking out. And once again, she was a single mother, of course. Of course. But the reason why our children are acting the way they do is because you have a bunch of adults who birthed these kids, but they don't want to take on the responsibility of being a parent. And that's why our kids run buck wild today. And don't you dare say anything bad about my child. Your child is bad. B-A-D, bold print, underline, exclamation point. And don't tell me that I can't say that, because your child is bad. The reason why your child is flunking out because they are not doing their homework. They want to goof off in class. They want to make fun of the other kids who are doing their work. They want to make fun. They want to make fun of the teachers. They want to disrespect their teachers. They want to fight their teachers. And instead of you coming in and dealing with that situation, you want to point the finger at other people for why your child is doing bad in school. This is the problem we face today in this country. And, you know, you could talk about Black Lives Matter. You could talk about, you know, black excellence and all this other garbage. But until these parents will put their foots, their foots, put their feet down, their collective feet down, and start demanding excellence from their kids, cutting the TV off, cutting the video game off, taking the cell phone out of their hands, this is going to continue. And basically what school administrators are doing, they're trying to work around it. And that's another problem as well. The school administrators, don't be working around these parents. What you need to do is say, okay, your child is bad, and the reason why your child is bad is because you're bad. You haven't even grown up. And here you are, you're immature in the brain, and you're raising a child to be just like you are. And if you're a black person and you're demanding black excellence, so actual black excellence from your black children, oh, they see you as a coon. Oh, you're just holding my child back and you're picking on my child and all that and everything. No. That's not how it is. If you were to get a lot of these teachers together by themselves and ask them in secret, who are the worst acting kids in your class? I guarantee you 99% of the time they'll say it's the black kids. And I see it all the time. Whenever I'm surfing on the web, or watching YouTube or something like that. You see it all the time. The kids just dress any old kind of way. The girls wearing booty shorts and wearing shirts 2 sizes too small, showing all their jiggle and their shake. The boys, they dressing with their pants hanging down, and they walking like their ankles are broken. But no, you can't point them things out, because that's a form of white supremacy. That's what they'll tell you. It's the white man that got our kids like this. It's because of the trauma of slavery. Our kids are like this. And your kids ain't never been through slavery. Never. They ain't been through slavery. You put a phone in their hand when they're about 6 or 7 years old, and all they do is live on that phone. That's all they do. And you all don't want a parent. Then when the teacher says, look, no cell phones in this classroom, and they take the phone from your child, a lot of you all will come to the school, you'll fuss out the teacher because they took their child's phone, when you should have taken a phone before they left the house. I don't know how these kids end up in school with their phones. I remember when I was a kid in the 70s and the 80s, every now and then my dad would do a search through my backpack. And if there was something that shouldn't have been in my backpack, he would take it out. But it's sad to say that a lot of parents are not like this anymore. They just want to go with the flow. All they care about is their careers. That's the only thing they care about. They care more about their careers than to manufacture a spirit of excellence within their kids. They say, well, I ain't got time for that. I work hard, and and I put food on the table and everything. I ain't got no time for that. Well, one of the most important things you can do for your child is to make the atmosphere at home conducive for learning. And sad to say, a lot of you parents out there, you're very bad parents. If there was an award for parenting, a lot of parents, and I'm especially talking about black parents, you all would fail miserably. You don't teach your kids a trade. You don't teach them a vocation or whatever. You just let them, that's the teacher's job. That's the teacher's job. No, it's your job. And I said this on this show a whole bunch of times. I know I have. I probably said it ad nauseum. But when I was coming up, my parents had 2 sets of encyclopedias. 2 sets of encyclopedias. And not only that, we had volumes of other books of reference. And every now and then I find myself going into the basement, cracking open an encyclopedia. Something just come up in my head. I go to the encyclopedia, look it up. But a lot of these parents, they don't know how to read themselves. They don't even know how to read. And because they don't know how to read, they don't think it's important for the kids to learn how to read. And then when someone comes down on their children like you should be coming down on them, all of a sudden you got a problem with it. And you want to cop an attitude and get in people's faces and do the little chicken neck and everything and waving your finger in people's faces. And then you want to look at white people and say, this is because, the reason why our children are like this is because of the white man. This is why our black people are behind. I was talking to my boss yesterday. I was talking to my boss, and I told him when I was in school, I didn't grow up poor. I grew up middle class. We lived in a townhome in Seat Pleasant, Maryland, for several years, and then we moved from there and to a place called Fort Washington, Maryland, in Prince George's County, Maryland. Moved to a 1,800 square foot home. And there were several black families on the street where I lived. There were 20 houses on that street where I used to live, 10 houses on each side. And there were mostly, when we first moved there, it was one white family that lived next door to us. The yard we had in the house that I lived in was bigger than everybody else's yard. We had a huge yard. Matter of fact, that first winter when we moved there, I remember sledding down. We had those shield type of sleds, and I remember sledding down those hills. But that was the only time we did that, because the next year my dad installed a patio, bricked in patio and everything. It had built-in lights and whatever. We had probably the best looking yard on the block. Matter of fact, we had a couple of block parties there. Every time we had a block party, people come to our house because we had the huge patio and everything. And we were living better than a lot of white people were. I'm talking about the 70s and the 80s. And boy, you did not come home with a bad report card. You come home with a bad report card or bad report from the teacher or something, we got it. I can say that, my parents probably went a little bit overboard with the discipline, but that's not my point. My point is that I knew that if I didn't live up to my parents' standards, that I was going to get it. And a lot of times I got it severely. And like I said, I can question about whether it was overboard or not, but I think it was a little bit overboard sometimes. But once again, that's not the point. But I cringe when I look at how these kids disrespect their parents today. I cringe To think of what my parents would have done if I was as disrespectful as a lot of these kids are today. And because our kids are acting this way, we always want to blame the white man. We don't teach our kids how to interact with the police. They get out there, they break the law, they want to cut an attitude with the police, get in their face. And the way these black women act, oh my gosh. These black women, yeah, I'm talking about black women right now. And I've seen this behavior in white women too. I've seen it in Hispanic, but so many times I have seen it with black women just cutting the attitude. I know my rights. Let me call my mama. I'm gonna call my lawyer and sue you. You just pulled me over because I'm black. No, they pulled you over because you're stupid. You're out there driving without a license, and you think, you're excused for driving without a license because you're like, oh, well, this is my sister's car, or I got my license at home. It's at home. And then you have some, they say, I ain't letting you see my license because I know my rights. You pull me over because I'm black. And then when the police put hands on them, don't touch me, don't touch me. I was going to show you my ID. Well, we're sitting here for 10 minutes trying to get you to show your ID, and you just want to flap off at the yap. And then when they start putting hands on you, all of a sudden they've done something wrong. But we don't teach our kids to respect authority. Because we look on TV and we see the cases of Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin and Tamir Rice and George Floyd and everything. And we teach our kids that, hey, this is what happens to us because we're black. And we live in a white supremacist nation. So this is what you expect because you are black. And they say, oh, we got to have the talk with our kids, how to interact with police officers. And then they have this mindset that only black people have the talk with their kids. They had the mindset that, oh, the white folks don't have to talk to their kids about it because the white folks ain't going to do nothing to them. And there's story after story. I've seen them, white people disrespecting the police officers too. I've seen them. And I'm just as critical of their attitudes as I am with the black kids. No one should be disrespecting the police like they do. But so many times I see it with black people. Sometimes they're already got an attitude, Police officer comes up to their door. What you pull me over for? What you pull me over for? I'm just down the street from my house. I saw one lady, she had pulled up into her yard. The police had, they had put up their sirens and their lights several miles down the road. She pulls into her driveway, and all of a sudden she's like, oh, you can't do nothing to me because I'm home. Police officer said, it doesn't work like that. No, I'm home. No, you can't. Don't you touch me. Don't you touch me. I'm going to record this, as if what they're recording is going to be different than what the police officer is recording. But it begins at home. People not teaching their kids to respect authority. When you go to school, your teacher gives you instructions. You need to follow the instructions. Now, if I hear that you're not listening to your teacher and following the instructions, when you come home, you're going to have to deal with me. And you do not want to deal with me. I don't care what your nasty little friends are doing. You're going to come here and you are going to get your work done. Well, Daddy, can I have a cell phone? No. But Johnny has one. Bap! What are you talking about? Johnny got one. Johnny don't live here. Johnny is flunking out every class because he cares more about his cell phone than he does about his work. I'm trying to fabricate some excellence within you. And see, parents, when one of the things about parents, one of the things about parenting is you have to teach your kids to delay their self gratification. They can't have everything that they want. But too many parents let the kids just have anything. They say, "Well, I gave my child a cell phone because if an emergency comes up, they can call me." No, no, no. You don't have to give them no iPhone or something like that. Give them a flip phone. Give them a flip phone because 99 and 9/10% of the time that child is going to be on that phone watching videos or playing games or whatever instead of getting their work done. And a lot of parents, they just let their kids float on by. Hey, they just let the kids do whatever. But this is the problem with our kids today. It is the parents. And school administrators need to put their collective feet down, and they need to call a lot of these parents to task. You all give me a second. I need to check something out right quick. Give me a second. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. Had to take care of some business, little discrepancy back here. Um, but yeah, this is what is the problem in our communities is parents don't want to be parents. And then when the shortcomings of their children start to surface, they always want to point out to somebody else. It's somebody else's fault. They don't look at themselves. Apparently, these people can't afford a mirror because that's who they need to look at is that person staring back at them from the mirror. And then when someone who looks like them starts criticizing other black people, they want to shut them down, intimidate, and whatever, call people names simply because they want to see people that look like them do better in whatever vocation that they engage themselves in. But that's the problem. That is the major problem. And see, you have a lot of these people, they're having kids out of wedlock. A lot of these people, they are not mentally stable. They're not mentally able to be parents because they haven't grown up. Because their parents probably let them get away with everything. And this is a plague in the Black community. A few weeks ago, my wife and I, my wife has a friend from Liberia because my wife's from Liberia too. She has a friend from Liberia, and she and her husband, and her husband and their two sons moved into a new house in Roxborough, North Carolina. And we went there. Nice home. They're in a brand new home. They moved into a brand new home and everything. And it got me and my wife thinking, hey, they can get a home. We can too. Let's pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and get this and get us a new home. And these people are Black and they got a nice home. And she showed us around their home. The house is nice. But the thing that really impressed me was when she took us into the bathroom, and the bathroom was just spotless. Just spotless. I mean, really. I think it was my wife. She said, "Wow, your bathroom looks nice." She said, "Yeah, you know why it looks nice? Because I get them boys in here to clean up this bathroom." And I was impressed because I was like, "Wow, they did a good job." She said, "Yeah, you gonna use this bathroom, you gonna clean it." How many Black parents do that with their kids? Tell your kids to clean the bathroom and they don't do it. And they don't meet a consequence for their disobedience. I remember when I was a kid, my mom used to have a list of things, and me and my brother, we very rarely followed that list. We very rarely did. And I don't know what it was. I guess we were stuck on stupid or something like that. I don't know what it was about us, but we didn't follow that list. But you know what? Every time we didn't follow that list, we met a negative consequence because of that. But these parents today, okay. Oh, you didn't feel like doing it? Okay, that's fine. That's parenting in America today. And it's not just with the Black folks. Don't get me wrong. You see it with the whites and the Hispanics. But like I said, it's a plague proportions among Black people. This is why I'm so hard on other Black people. That's why I'm so hard on people. My own people. Really, you're not my people, but that's just how it is. What do you mean? What do you mean? We're not your people. You're not. Just because we share the same skin color, that doesn't mean you're my people. I'll never claim that. Because let me tell you what my people do. My people take responsibility for their actions. My people don't use their skin color to make excuses for their shortcomings. My people don't use their skin color to set the course for their emotions. My people don't disrespect authority. That's my people. But anyway, I want to go on. I want to go on to another subject. Got that one out of the way. This other subject, you all know we got this shutdown going on, and a lot of people they're all up in arms about the shutdown, and people won't get their SNAP benefits. I don't know if they have because today's the deadline where the SNAP benefits were going to run out. And I don't know if there's been a provision to get some emergency funding for the SNAP program. And of course, you all know what the SNAP program is. That's where you get your food stamps. What is it? Supplemental nutritional. I forgot what SNAP stood for. Let me pull it up right quick. I thought I committed it to memory the other day. I pull it up and it pulls up Snapchat. Nobody. Oh, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Now, the key word in there is nutrition. Now, a lot of people, they're upset because they're like, okay, a lot of people, they're not going to get their SNAP benefits, and they're going to be starving. They don't know where they're going to get their next meal from and everything, and it's going to be hard for them to get food and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I believe there are people who really do need the SNAP program. I really do believe that, but there's too many people who are abusing it. I learned the other day that is 42 million people on the SNAP program. 42 million people. Now think about the country you live in. And then just look at that number, 42 million people. Do you actually think that if the benefits run out for SNAP, do you actually believe that 42 million people are going to starve to death? How many people have starved to death in the United States? Let me just say in the United States. I'm not talking about any other country. I'm talking about the United States. How many people have starved to death in this country per year? I can guarantee you that if you were to guess 1,000, that would be too high. There are so many programs in this country. You could go to your churches. There are other programs besides SNAP where you can get food for you and your family. I mean, just think about that. I don't even think during the Depression there was massive people dying from starvation. They had soup kitchens, whatever. People still getting fed. Yes, it was a struggle. Don't get me wrong. But how many people have starved to death in the U.S. in 1 year within the past, I'll say, in the past 100 years? Think about it. 42 million people are on the SNAP program. And a lot of these people that I've seen on the SNAP program, now, SNAP means Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. But a lot of these people who are on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, they're not buying anything that is nutritious. They're buying junk food with their SNAP. Let me go to Amazon right quick. I want to pull something up on Amazon. Hopefully, I can pull it up real quick. Let me do this. Let me pull up Little Debbie snacks. Little Debbie snacks. Little Debbie's is famous for their oatmeal cream pies, their Swiss rolls. Oh man, I love their Swiss rolls. Their zebra cakes, things of that sort. So I pull up Little Debbie's on Amazon. Little Debbie's 13-ounce box of Swiss rolls, $2.36. And it is SNAP EBT eligible. Look at the oatmeal cream pies. SNAP EBT eligible. There's zebra cakes, another thing that they're famous for. SNAP EBT eligible. They're Nutty Buddies, something else they're known for. SNAP EBT eligible. There's strawberry shortcake rolls. There's zebra cake rolls. They're fudge rounds. Oh man, I used to love some of them fudge rounds. I used to love their fudge rounds. Everything on Little Debbie's is SNAP EBT eligible. The donut sticks. Yeah, this isn't Little Debbie's, but it's still, Oreos, SNAP EBT eligible. All this stuff that is not nutrition, that is not nutritious. How in the world does all this junk? How in the world is this junk SNAP EBT eligible? Let me go here. Let me pull up something else. Something just came across my head. Something I used to binge on these a lot when I was a kid. Let me pull these up. Y'all find out what I'm talking about. Oh my goodness. Look at this. This is something that not too long ago I used to tear these things up. They're called Pop-Tarts. Y'all know what Pop-Tarts are. Every last one of them, SNAP EBT eligible. Blueberry, strawberry, cookies and cream. I used to love the brown sugar and cinnamon. Every last one of them, EBT eligible. Why? It's supposed to be, SNAP is supposed to be supplemental nutrition. This stuff has very little nutrition in it, which is the reason why I don't eat Pop-Tarts now. Which is the reason why I don't eat a lot of Little Debbie's either. Can't remember the last time I had a Little Debbie's snack cake, to be honest with you. A lot of this stuff is EBT eligible. Now, a lot of people who are on the EBT program, I've seen some of them, and these people are not skinny. These people are not starving. I saw one lady on TikTok, and I think she got like $3,000 worth of food stamps, and she was just showing what she bought with the food stamps. Oh, I got some chocolate donuts. These are for the kids. Some Kool-Aid, and got this for the kids, got that for the kids. The most nutritious thing I think she had bought with those food stamps was a ground beef. No vegetables, no greens, no spinach, no carrots, no fruit, because she probably thought she was getting her fruit from the fruit roll-ups that she was buying her kids. But all this stuff, all this junk. And see, the thing is, people are mad at Donald Trump because he wants to revamp the SNAP program. And people are like, oh, well, there are people who, what we're not talking about the people who depend on SNAP. And even if you do depend on SNAP, you're not going to starve. Not in the United States of America. At least not yet, anyway. Not until the socialists get their way with this country. And someone put forth something. They said, if you depend on your government, for your food, then they have the power to make you starve. But a lot of these people are not starving. They are overweight. I mean, some of these people look like they weigh 300, 400 pounds. And these are the very people who are complaining about running out of SNAP benefits. It's the same thing with the school lunch programs. You know, people are like, oh, well, a lot of these kids, they can't eat at home. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. You're not going to sit there and tell me that. You're not no 42 million people in this country. I can guarantee you 42 million people in this country are not starving. If they were off of the SNAP program, they will not starve to death. I guarantee you. Maybe if they lived in another country like China or Russia or some of these other or some third world nation or something like that. But you're not starving to death living in the United States. And I was telling somebody, I said I have never had to use food stamps. Never. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying that there might not come a time that when I will have to use them. I hope that time never comes. But I have never. And there were times I was making like $4 or $5 an hour. And some of these people are making a lot of money. Some of these people are making $50,000 and they're on a SNAP program. How the heck? And the problem with a lot of people on the SNAP program, they're not even looking for a job. They're just sitting around letting the government hand them out something. And then they take those benefits and they go and buy junk for their kids. And we wonder why we have an obesity epidemic in this country. Because a lot of these people are taking those benefits. They said 75%. I can't pull the number up right now. I heard that 75% of people who are on the SNAP program are grossly overweight. And then people want to make the argument, well, they deserve to treat their kids and whatever and stuff like that. Treating your kids is not buying $3,000 worth of food. You know what treating your kids is? Is you buying a lot of nutritious food, and a very small portion of that might be ice cream or donuts or something like that. Really, you could probably do well without giving them that too. But treating your kids is not buying them a whole bunch of junk. And once again, people want to point their fingers at Donald Trump. Oh, Donald Trump, he wants to see people he wants to see people starve. He doesn't want to see kids well fed and all that and everything. And I say that's bull crap. We've had this has been going on long before Donald Trump became president. So people need to just stop it. I forgot who that lady was. She teaches at I don't know if she's still there now, but she teaches at the University of Rhode Island, and she's up there, and she's talking about, I hate it when people talk about black people being fat because you got to understand we're living in the Trump era. And I'm sitting there like, lady, you were probably overweight long before Trump came into play. And once again, she's making the excuses, when we diet, it doesn't affect our bodies like it does with the white people. I'm like, are you serious? Did she just say that? It doesn't affect us like it does white people. White people, they can shed the pounds off easy. I've seen some old grossly overweight white people. I've seen grossly overweight Hispanics, grossly overweight, as well as grossly overweight black folks. So no, it has nothing to do with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not the reason why you got weight put on you. This is crazy mess. But you got these people who really could use an overhaul in their diet, and be, they're sitting here saying they're going to starve to death. And and myself, I'm trying to lose weight myself. That's why I cut down on a lot of the junk that I used to eat. I used to eat Oreos and Pop Tarts and the Little Debbie snack cakes and the donuts and everything like that. And I started, really trying to, wean myself off of those things. Now, I didn't eat as much junk as a lot of other people are doing, though, just pigging out. But I did eat too much. And it probably led to me getting my gallbladder taken out this year. But I'm doing something about it. But some of these people, they're not even thinking about it. But they think they're going to starve to death because they can't get their junk for free now. Why don't you buy your kids some vegetables and some supplements and some fruit? And I'm not talking about fruit roll-ups either. Buy them something that's healthy. And see, that's another reason why our kids can't concentrate in school, because they're not getting the necessary nutrition. In the morning, they're eating Count Chocula and Cookie Crisp and Captain Crunch. For lunch, they're having Lunchables and juice boxes. And I don't even know what they're eating at dinner time. Chicken nuggets. But people are looking at Donald Trump like, oh, he wants, and really, it has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It's the Democrats. They want to open these benefits up to people who should not be in this country. They want to open up all these benefits to illegal aliens, people who come here illegally. And a lot of us, the benefits we should be getting, we can't get them because they're giving them to the illegals, people who want to come here and run the country themselves. They come here, they want to wave their country's flag, the country that they fled from. They want to wave their country's flag. But why did you leave your country? If you want to wave your country's flag, why don't you go to your country and wave your flag there? But you want to bring whatever reason that you left your country into the United States. And you want to turn the United States into the very country that you just left, instead of assimilating and wanting to become a citizen and doing things legally. But they don't care. These people don't care about this. They don't. And because a lot of these people are mentally and intellectually lazy, they want someone to do the thinking for them. They want to receive everything passively. It's crazy, people. What we're the times we are living in right now. But everybody wants to blame Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump's fault. But the Democrats are like, hey, we want things our way. If you don't do it our way, well, okay, let the country stay closed. It ain't Donald Trump's fault. But everybody wants to believe that because we've been brainwashed by the news media. And you all know how I feel about the news media. The news media is one of the main reasons why people think the way they do now, because a lot of times people they'll come home and they'll turn on the news, especially CNN and ABC, NBC, MSNBC, all the rest of them. But we let the media lie to us. We let the media lie to us, and they have our favor. They have our permission, and that's why they continue to lie to us. They give us the stories that they think we want to hear, because all they care about is their ratings going up. That's all they care about, is their ratings going up, because they care more about that mighty dollar than they do about you. You actually think people in the government care about our health or our well-being? Do you really believe that they care about that? They don't care about your health. They keep telling you, oh, these foods are unhealthy and those are the foods that you need to be eating. But they'll tell you this cereal right here, this cereal right here has been fortified with all these vitamins and minerals and everything. They sprinkle something on there and they tell you, oh, this is good for you. Instead of us going out and actively looking up this stuff, actively looking up, information about our nutrition or whatever, we're letting someone feed that to us instead of us actively searching for it for ourselves. But until people get and see, it seems like it's a hard thing. It seems like it's a hard thing for people to search things for themselves, so they rely on somebody else to do the searching for them, and they don't realize that the person who is doing the searching for them, they really don't care about them. They can tell them anything, and if you shift the responsibility onto the shoulders of somebody else beside your own shoulders, that person can tell you anything. They can do anything for you. And you'll sit there, they'll tell you anything, and you'll be like, oh, okay, okay. Instead of saying, oh, wait a minute, I hear what they're saying, but let me check this out on my own. This is why a lot of people get fooled, because they're not active in searching. They're not active in searching to find their own information. They want somebody else to do it for them, because it's so hard. It's so hard to think for yourself. And me here lately, well, for the past couple of years, I've been watching this guy on YouTube called Dr. Berg. I've been buying his supplements and everything. And, basically, I wish I could have saved my gallbladder earlier this year, but I may have been too far gone. But a lot of that, a lot of the diseases that we have in this country, we are the most diseased country in the world. And a lot of that is because of the foods that they tell us we're supposed to eat this and eat that and everything and whatever. And a lot of the foods that we're eating are the very things that are poisoning us. But they tell us you shouldn't be eating eggs and you shouldn't be eating pork and beef and when you cook your food, you need to use vegetable oils and you shouldn't be using beef tallow or lard to cook your food. They tell you got to use corn oil and vegetable oil and all these other oils that are not good for you. And I think the number one reason why a lot of us are sick is because of these oils, these seed oils. These seed oils they're highly processed. The nutrition has been taken out of them. And a lot of these seed oils are nothing but poison. And it's gotten to the point where it is almost impossible for you to buy something at the grocery store and it not have some of that poison in it. Your bread, your sandwich meats. Of course, I talked about the junk food like the Pop Tarts and everything, your oatmeal, your pancakes, and things of that sort. But we need to think about what we've been thinking about. We really need to think about what we've been thinking about, and we need to be active in our own education. Having a teacher is good. People teaching you certain things, that's good, teaching you the basics and everything, but you need to be active in your own education. You need to be active in education about how the world works. You need to be active in education about your nutrition, your health, your well-being. And a lot of us, we have just dropped all that and we said we're going to put that responsibility on the doctors. We're going to put that responsibility on the teachers. We're going to put that responsibility on the lawyers. So I'm trying to pull up another story because I want to go into another story that I came across last year. And before I do that, I want to read this scripture before I go there. And this scripture comes from the book of Ecclesiastes. It's the 8th chapter and the 11th verse of Ecclesiastes. Because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed swiftly, the heart of the sons of men is fully set to do evil. Let me repeat that again. Because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed swiftly, the heart of the sons of men is fully set to do evil. We have a justice problem in our country. We have a serious justice problem in this country. Only in this country can you get a person who can murder children, murder innocent people, do it in the most heinous way. And a lot of these people, they'll get little to no prison time. And I'm going to take it a step further. A lot of these people who commit these crimes, they should never see the light of day again. I say they need to bring back public hangings. And I know a lot of you all will probably be like, well, Vincent, I thought you were a Christian, and I didn't think Christians think like that. Doesn't the Bible say that you shall not murder? But executing a criminal for a crime that they've committed is not murder. Murder is something that's done maliciously and premeditatively. Executing a criminal for a crime that they've committed is a punishment. And see, we've taken the sting out of justice because we think justice means I'm just supposed to have my way. But there was this story about this lady named Bianca Ellis. I came across it last year. And this was one of the most heinous crimes I think I've ever seen in my life. And let me go to the site. It says News 5 Cleveland. And this story It's from October 27th, so a few days ago. Cleveland, Bianca Ellis, the woman who fatally stabbed 3-year-old Julian Wood last year in a North Olmsted grocery store parking lot, was sentenced on Monday morning to life in prison without parole. On an emotional morning in which family members and the community remembered and mourned the boy who lost his life, Judge John J. Russo issued the sentence the boy's parents requested. Justice cannot undo tragedy, Russo said, but it can affirm that what happened was wrong and that your child's life mattered. Jared Wood, Julian Wood's father, said his family is missing out on the time they should get to spend with him. All of our hearts will forever be missing a piece, Jared Wood said. He read a statement during the sentencing hearing, sharing anecdotes about the boy he described as smart, funny, and fearless. He explained that Julian helped encourage the couple's older son, who is on the autism spectrum, to begin speaking. Julian had a special way with people to get them to grow and open up and just have fun, Jared Wood said. Margot Wood, this is the boy's mother, the little 3-year-old's mother, who was also injured in the stabbing, said she watched her son take his first breaths and had to hold him in her arms, covered in blood, taking his last breaths. That woman murdering my son replays in my head every single day. She said, I can still see the terror in his eyes, and it haunts me every day. Just because you have a mental illness doesn't justify for you murdering my son, she said. North Olmsted Police Detective Sean Ventris said the death of a child will forever impact all of the officers. Now, this is what happened. Last year, this monster, she went into a thrift store and stole a couple of knives. Then she went next door to a grocery store and she followed this woman with her child. Now, before I go any further, folks, whenever you go out in public, make sure you notice your surroundings. Watch your surroundings. Because you don't know if somebody might be stalking you, or they might not have your best interests at heart or anything like that. They might want to make you into a victim. But always be aware of your surroundings. And the store camera caught this lady following this woman, not lady, monster, following this woman and her child out into the parking lot, where she proceeded to stab the mother and the child. And they said the encounter took like 5 seconds. And the mother survived, but the 3-year-old didn't. Let me continue with the story. It says, in policing, we learn to build emotional armor, but this case pierced through it completely, Ventris said. It profoundly affected an entire community and the officers sworn to serve it. Ellis's attorney, Fernando Mack, said Ellis was unstable from January 2024 until June 2024 because she was not taking her medicine, and asked the judge to weigh her mental health during the sentencing. Folks, let me tell you all something. This mental health defense is garbage. I have suffered with mental health myself, but it never crossed my mind to take a knife and kill somebody. This is garbage. And from what I could deduce, that police had problems with this lady before. And she should not have been out on the street. She even admitted to killing somebody in California some time ago. They haven't confirmed that that's what the case was, but she admitted to killing someone in California. And my thing is, why do we let people like this back out on the street? I can give you one reason: because she was black. We can't put these black people in prison because they think we're racist. I think that's one of the reasons why. And the second reason is they don't want to stigmatize mental health. There are a lot of people who have mental health problems in this country, but they don't have the mind to murder someone for no reason. And that was the reason that was the reason why she murdered this little boy. It was no reason. There was no reason. No reason at all. So this attorney, Fernando Mack, said she was unstable from January 2024 until June 2024 because she was not taking her medicine, and asked the judge to weigh her mental health during the sentencing. Mr. Johnson, who's the judge, and I respectfully disagree with the verdict, Mack said of the legal team. When on medication, she's been in custody without incident, he said. The defense requested a sentence of 20 years. A sentence of 20 years. Prosecutors told the judge Ellis deliberately targeted a helpless victim and asked for the maximum sentence. Mercy is given by God, said Assistant Prosecutor Anna Faraglia. Courtrooms, judges dispense justice. The judge ordered the maximum sentence on all charges to be served concurrently with a life sentence without parole for the aggravated murder charge. He also used his platform to address mental health, saying the case highlights a dire need for equitable, effective services. You know what an equitable, effective service would be? I think Ellis got off with a light sentence. Because somewhere down the line, someone might look at her case and say, you know what, her civil rights were abused, and she should have gone through this, so we'll just let her out. They should have given her the death penalty. And not only that, not to sit in prison for 20, 30, 40 years awaiting her sentence to be carried out. I give you a week. A week. Maybe a week is too long. Maybe they should just carry out the sentence. And I know there are people out there saying, well, you can't just you should give people a chance to plead their case and appeal, and you want to be sure that this person did it. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, she should get the death penalty. There was no reason. You can make that defense about mental health all you want to, but I guarantee you, if you start dealing with these mentally incompetent people the way you should, all of a sudden you're not going to have too many of these mental health cases going around. I can guarantee you that. Now, this lady, this monster, excuse me, I keep calling her a lady, but she's a monster. When she was being charged with this heinous crime, she was up there laughing and smiling at the camera, being disrespectful in the courtroom. Now, if I was a judge, I would have been like, "Oh, okay, so that's how it's going to be." Okay. Let's see how much you smile when that rope is wrapped around your neck. Let me continue with the article. I urgently implore our city and county leaders to continue providing facilities and programs that respond quickly and compassionately to those in crisis, Russo said. No family should have to lose a child, and no family should have to watch their loved ones deteriorate because meaningful and effective mental health services were unavailable. Yeah, they're no, they're unavailable because you got too many bleeding heart people who think that criminals deserve more rights than their victims. When Ellis was given an opportunity to speak, she gave a brief statement. I just want to say I apologize. I'm really sorry for what happened, she said. And when I watched her do that, it was like hollow words. It was hollow words. She probably was told to say that by her lawyer. She didn't mean it. Because if you've seen this case from the beginning, she thought it was all funny and laughing and everything and stuff like that. And see, here's another tragedy right here. It says the Wood family said they couldn't forgive her. Now, as a Christian, I believe that we are supposed to forgive. But they said they couldn't forgive her. That's tragic. What you did was unforgivable and it can never be taken back, said Margot Wood. You deserve to go to jail for the rest of your life so you can't hurt anyone else. You don't deserve mercy. You didn't give my son any. Now, what happened on June the 3rd, 2024? Ellis stole 2 knives from the Volunteers of America thrift store and then walked next door to the North Olmsted Giant Eagle, where she spotted a 38-year-old woman pushing a child in a cart. Ellis followed Margot and Julian into the parking lot and then stabbed the child while he was in a grocery cart. When Margot tried to pull Julian out of the cart during the attack, Ellis stabbed her as well. Margot and Julian were taken to a nearby hospital for treatment, but unfortunately, Julian succumbed to his injuries. Ellis's trial date was repeatedly delayed as she was standoffish in court in order to have severe mental health assessments to determine if she was competent to stand trial. Folks, let me tell you this. Anyone who maliciously takes another life, I think they are mentally incompetent. So that's no excuse for not giving someone the death penalty, which I think she deserved because she's a monster. The trial began on October the 6th, with both the defense and the prosecution presenting their opening arguments. And while neither side disputed the facts of what happened, Ellis's mental health was at the center of the case. Now, here's the thing, before I go on finishing up reading this article, something just hit me in the head. Here's the thing. People say that when white people commit an act of murder or whatever, they get treated for mental health, but black people don't get that same, they don't get that same treatment. Here's a black monster here who just got that same treatment. So what are you going to say about that? What are you going to say about that? This black monster, she got that same treatment, the mental health treatment. So miss me with all this, black and white junk. The days that followed were marked by eyewitnesses taking the stand to recount the events of June 3rd, 2024. Margot also testified, stating that she had no connection or previous encounters with Ellis before the attack, which he said was sudden and came out of nowhere. Ellis's defense attorneys entered a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. They previously said their client's behavior, medical history, and interactions during and after the incident showed she was insane during the attack. I think anyone who commits a murder like that is insane. On October 15th, the day before my birthday, on October 15th, after a week of testimony, Ellis was found guilty on all charges of aggravated murder, felonious assault, attempted murder, tampering with evidence, and aggravated theft. Julian's parents, Margot and Jared Wood, made a statement to the media after the verdict was announced. We just want to thank everyone for the love and support for our son, Margot Wood said after the verdict was announced. Everybody that's visited him commented, sent love, and we appreciate you guys so much. This was for him today. Following Julian's heartbreaking death, the community came together in support of the Wood family as the streets of North Olmsted became flooded with the color green and dinosaurs during his funeral procession. That's heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking right there. That's heartbreaking. They say he was obsessed with dinosaurs, the little boy. But when you see cases like this, people always talking about, the white folks always get away with this and everything. I think this monster got away with a lot too, and she should have gotten a death penalty. She should. This monster should have gotten a death penalty. And there are other cases like this. There's a case. Let me pull this other case up. There was another case. Yeah, this Kentucky man, Ronald Exantis. Ronald Exantis. That's who I wanted to find right there. Ronald Exantis. Pull this one up real quick. Let me pull this up. And then, if I have enough time, that's another case I want to talk about as well. This was a case in Kentucky. Man accused of killing sleeping 6-year-old arrested again after early release. He was released by a state statute that requires periods of re-entry for felons. A man who was accused of stabbing a sleeping 6-year-old child to death in 2015, acquitted by reason of insanity, but convicted on other counts and later released from prison, is being sent back to Kentucky from Florida, according to arrest documents. Ronald Exantis, 42, was freed from Kentucky prison last week after serving 8 years behind bars for a crime in 2015 in which he was accused of entering an unlocked residence and stabbing 6-year-old Logan Tipton, resulting in his death with a butcher knife taken from the kitchen. Exantis also stabbed 2 of the boy's sisters and her father. 2 of the boy's sisters and father, excuse me. They said this crime was so brutal that when he stabbed this boy, stabbed him in the head, the butcher knife actually bent. He was acquitted of capital murder for Logan's death. I mean, look at this. He was acquitted of capital murder for Logan's death and first-degree burglary by reason of insanity in a Kentucky court in 2018. But he was found guilty on 2 counts of second-degree assault and 1 count of 4th-degree assault for attacking the other members of the Tipton family, and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Now, I want you guys to ask yourself this. Ronald Exantis, what race is Ronald Exantis? You're always crying about black people not getting off for the same crimes that white people get off for. But Ronald Exantis is a black man. And he stabbed a little white boy. Now, this dude, he didn't even serve 10 years of his 20-year sentence. And he was only found guilty on 2 counts of second-degree assault and 1 count of 4th-degree assault for attacking the little boy's other family members who survived. He wasn't convicted of the murder of this kid. Once again, can someone show me the white privilege going on in these cases? Can someone please show it to me? And you know why they released him from prison? For good behavior. This is another rascal that should have been fried on the chair or swinging from his neck. He was arrested in Florida on Thursday in Marion County for allegedly violating his parole by not registering as a convicted felon in the state within 48 hours of arrival. So why'd y'all let him out? Why'd y'all let him out in the first place? He's supposed to still be in prison. Matter of fact, he shouldn't be in prison. He should be in a grave, 6 feet under. This black man murdered this little white boy. Once again, 6 years old. The previous one was 3 years old. This one just was 6 years old. And they say he stabbed the boy so hard the knife bent. He breaks into the house and stabs this little boy. And they say, oh, you know, he's not guilty by reason of insanity, but they charge him for assault on the other family members who survived. Exantis was originally sentenced to 20 years in prison in 2018, but was released last week due to good behavior under a 2012 Kentucky state law aimed at reducing recidivism by requiring periods of reentry for felons, according to authorities. This guy should never have been released back into the public. Never. In a post on X, Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer said state police are working to extradite Exantis to Kentucky after his arrest. At a press conference on Friday morning, Lieutenant Paul Bloom of the Marion County Sheriff's Office condemned Exantis' crimes and early release. I get he was released from what my understanding on good behavior. Well, I think the overwhelming evil behavior that he exhibited in killing this child and trying to kill others in the same home outweighs any good behavior he could do in the next 400 years, Bloom said. And I totally agree. 10 million% agree. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis also decried the situation on X, saying it was shocking that Exantis was let out of prison in Kentucky after serving a mere fraction of his sentence for murdering a 6-year-old kid. Didn't even serve half of his sentence. Didn't even serve half of it. The White House is currently looking into Exantis' early release, according to Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt. I can confirm the White House is looking into this. It's wholly unacceptable for a child killer to walk free after just several years in prison, Leavitt posted on X with a link to a news page about Exantis. Oh, boy, I tell you. This is the country we live in. We always want to cry about justice. Where's Al Sharpton? Where's Benjamin Crump? Where's Jesse Jackson? Where are all the black civil rights leaders out here who are always crying for justice? These two cases that I just read, justice hadn't been served. Justice ain't been served because if justice was served, both of them wouldn't be alive today. They shouldn't be alive. But here's the problem with a lot of these black civil rights leaders, so-called leaders. A black person could probably go into a home and just kill everybody in the home. Let's say it's 10 members of a family in a home. A black person come in there and kill the whole family. And according to the mentality of a lot of these civil rights leaders and these lawyers and everything, black people shouldn't have to go to jail for anything. Black people shouldn't have to go to jail for anything. We don't care how heinous the crime was. Okay, yeah. They don't think black people should have to go to jail for anything. But let these two cases have been reversed. Let them be reversed. Let's say a white monster followed this black woman and her child out into the parking lot and stabbed the 3-year-old kid to death. Or a white monster broke into a home and stabbed a 6-year-old black kid to death. We wouldn't hear the end of it. And you know I'm telling the truth. Even after, quote unquote, justice was served, we'd still be hearing about it. But what's good for one group of people is good for everybody. All these people, these civil rights activists and everything, all they care about is the well-being of black people. They don't care about white folks. And then when you tell them, well, how come you didn't have the same energy when a black person murdered a white person? Oh, well, justice was served. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. You're not going to sit there and tell me you can look at these two cases and tell me justice was served, because it wasn't. Yeah, there's a good chance Bianca Ellis could stay in jail for the rest of her monstrous life. But there's always a chance someone can look at her case again and say, hey, wait a minute, her civil rights were violated. We didn't do this by the book. Okay, we need to release her from prison. She shouldn't get a chance. See, she gets a chance. Might be a small chance, but she still gets a chance after all. And Ronald Exantis killing this boy, they shouldn't even thought about putting him in prison for just 20 years. And you see what happened. He didn't even serve half of his term. He leaves prison, goes down to Florida, and what does he do? Immediately violates his parole. So now they're trying to extradite him back up to Kentucky. Should never have let him out of prison. Never. Now, I want to talk about one more. I want to talk about one more person. And this happened a couple of months ago, I think in August. Man stabs woman in throat on Charlotte light rail minutes after she sits down, records say. Woman who recently fled from Ukraine killed in stabbing. A woman was stabbed to death on the Charlotte light rail just minutes after sitting in front of the man accused of attacking her, according to an affidavit obtained Thursday. On Friday, August 22nd, a woman identified as 23-year-old Irina Zarutska was stabbed to death on the light rail in Charlotte's South End neighborhood, officials reported. Zarutska's family said she had recently fled to Charlotte from war-torn Ukraine. Records showed that 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown Jr. was charged on Thursday, August 28th with murder in Zarutska's killing. An affidavit published on August 23rd and obtained by WBTV on Thursday, August 28th, accused Brown of stabbing Zarutska in the throat. Brown was being held without bond. Now, the picture of Brown, he's one of these Bob Marley looking types with the dreadlocks and everything, and he's got the tattoos and whatever. The stabbing happened on Friday, August 22nd, on a Lynx Blue Line train at the East West Boulevard station along Camden Road in South End, according to officials. Video retrieved from inside the light rail showed Zarutska getting on the train car and sitting in a seat in front of Brown, according to an affidavit obtained by WBTV on August 28th. The train traveled for about 4.5 minutes before Brown allegedly pulled a knife from his pocket, unfolded it, paused, stood up, and stabbed Zarutska 3 times. Zarutska was stabbed in the middle of the throat at least one of those times, officials said. It was believed that Zarutska and Brown did not know each other. There appeared to be no interaction between the two on the light rail before the stabbing, the affidavit said. Police reports said Brown walked away as Zarutska began bleeding out. She became unresponsive shortly after being stabbed, officials said. Now, before I go further, there were people on the train that witnessed this. Nobody came to her aid until it was too late. No one stopped the man, got the knife out of his hand or anything like that. I saw the video. I didn't see the actual stabbing because they had it, blurred out and everything. But people just sat there and he's just walking around, blood just dripping from his weapon. And nobody tackled him, of course, because they don't want another Daniel Penny on their hands. No one tackled him, held him down or anything like that. And by the time they really came to her aid, it was all over. Brown was reportedly found shortly after the stabbing, arrested, and taken to the hospital for a laceration on the outside of his hand. So he stabbed the girl so viciously that he injured himself. It was not immediately clear how Brown was injured in the attack. Officials had not given a motive for Brown's alleged attack on Zarutska as of this writing. Now, this is the thing. Here's the thing, y'all. Records showed that Charlotte police had arrested Brown before. Most recently for reportedly misusing 911. According to a January arrest record, Brown told responding officers during a welfare check that it believed someone had given him man-made material that was inside his body, controlling when he ate, walked, and talked. Now, the report I read on this guy, he was arrested at least 13 times before for crimes. I think since he was a teenager. 13 times. Why was this man allowed on the street? I can give you a good reason. DeCarlos Brown is black. Irina Zarutska is white. And not only that, after he stabbed her, he reportedly said, "I got that white girl. I got that white girl." But where are the cries of racism? Where are the cries of racism? Once again, where are the civil rights activists? Her civil rights were violated. And I can guarantee you that she was stabbed simply because she was white. All she did was come on the train and she sat right down in front of DeCarlos Brown. And for no reason, DeCarlos Brown stood up and stabbed her 3 times. At least once in the neck. And she bled out. She was just coming home from work. She didn't interact with him. She didn't say anything to him. She just sat down. He gets up, stabs her, and says, "Hey, I got that white girl. I got that white girl." But nobody says anything about racism. Nobody says this is a hate crime. And really, I don't know why anyone would, want to say it's a hate crime. It's murder. Whether it's a hate crime or not, it's murder. And it should meet the same consequences as any hate crime or anything like that. But this guy should not have been on the streets. Let me go back to Ecclesiastes 8:11. Because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed swiftly, the heart of the sons of men is fully set to do evil. And I just gave you 3 cases where that's the case. None of these people should have been walking out in public among other people. But because we have a justice system that wants to penalize victims and protect victimizers, this kind of stuff is going to happen. This is the reason why I believe everybody should be armed with something, be it a gun, a baton, baseball bat, billy club, pit bull, bucktooth, jungle weasel. This is why I believe everybody should protect themselves, because the people who are the lawmakers and the lawgivers, they're not protecting us. We always cry about justice, justice, justice. But I just gave you 3 examples of people who weren't given justice. And not only that, when people come up and they talk about, well, black people, we end up getting killed by the police and all this and everything. I gave you 3 examples of 3 black people who should not have been on the street in the first place, and they got off. Yes, Bianca Ellis as well. You can sit there and say, well, at least she got life in prison. Nah, she should have gotten her life taken, as well as the Carlos Brown, and as well as what's his name, Ronald Exeltis. His name escapes me because it's not a common name. Exantis. None of these people should be alive. None of them. You want justice? Put all 3 of these monsters into the gas chamber, or take them to the gallows, put the rope around their neck, or stand them in front of a brick wall with a blindfold on and let them have it. Because monsters like this do not deserve to live. We already seen what happened with Exantis. As soon as they let him out of prison, he couldn't do a simple thing as register as a felon in the state of Florida. So back to Kentucky you go. Now, I don't know what they're going to do to him in Kentucky. I need to follow that. But this is the state of the justice system in this country. And the news media will throw up this smoke and mirrors type of deal and make you think this is only happening to black people. Only black people don't meet justice. Only black people are always asking for justice, but they never get it. These 3 black people did. Well, they didn't get justice, but these white folks that they killed, they weren't given justice. The Carlos Brown should not have been on the streets. And I'm very interested. I'm very interested on how his case is going to play out. Because I live in the state of North Carolina, and people here can be kind of funny sometimes. So if any of you all, you might be listening to this show, whether it's live or if it's in the archives or whatever, and you want to come up and say, well, black people, we get the worst end of the deal and everything, check out these 3 stories right here and tell me who got the bad end of the deal. Because I tell you, it wasn't the black people. So anyway, I'm going to end the show on that note. But I got 6 more minutes. Just want to share with everybody that next week I probably won't have a show. I'm going out of town, do some pictures next weekend, and God willing, anyway. And I probably won't have a show next week. So my next show, God willing, which should be on November the 15th. And I don't know, maybe next week, maybe next week I'll do an early show. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a show on Friday or something like that. I don't know. I doubt if I do, but I'll see what my options are and everything. But you all, when I do shows like this, when I do programs like this, and I give my point of view about what's going on and everything, don't just take my word for it. I want you to go out and look this stuff up yourself and see where I'm coming from. Don't just sit there and say, oh, I heard Vincent say this and everything, and he said this and everything. Check out what I'm talking about. Because I'm human and I can make mistakes too. Although I don't think I made a mistake with these three airheads that I talked about today. But go out there, just check into what I was talking about. And check it out for yourself. Do your due research. It doesn't take a lot to do research. It doesn't take a lot to do study. Take it from a person who has terrible study habits. I admit that right now. I have terrible study habits. But it doesn't take much for you to look into a lot of this stuff. And you don't have to, be real elaborate with your studies and everything. But stop looking, stop getting your sources from people who think like you do. You have to have an open mind when you check into these stories, because a lot of us, we get our sources from a single, we get a lot of our stories from a single source. We don't get a variety of sources from where we get our information. And so because we're getting our stories from a single source, we tend to be biased when we hear something that sounds different from what we have heard before. Like a lot of people, they tell me when I get to talking like I do, they say, "Oh, you watching Fox News, Fox News." Most of my news doesn't come from Fox. See, I'm a reader. I like to read. And, it's so simple to say, oh, you're getting your stuff from Fox News. So what is so bad about Fox News compared to the other news stations? What's so bad about them? Why is it only Fox News? Why isn't it ABC or MSNBC or CBS or any of the rest of them out there? Why is it always Fox News? But like I said, don't just take my word for it. Check out what I'm talking about. You'll find out I'm not talking out of the side of my neck or anything or whatever. And, then you can come to me and say, then you can form your point of view from that. But as long as you keep letting someone do your thinking for you, you receive your information passively like that, you're always going to be uninformed. You're going to think you're informed, and you might argue like you're informed, but you're not. Because you're letting somebody else do the thinking for you. And you have to have an open mind on where you get your information from. You have to have an open mind. You can't just say, well, that's not what I heard. Because a lot of people, they do that. Oh, dang, what? I ain't heard that. I ain't heard that. Just because you ain't heard it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But anyway, let me get ready to round this show on up. You all take care of yourselves out there. Stay safe. This is Vincent E. Brown. I am signing off. And until the next time, I'll see you on the rebound.
You are listening to WVEB Truth Sharks Radio.